I'm also waiting. Oh, there's Karen. Hi, Karen. I think that's quorum.
Hi, guys.
All right. Simon, are you on the call? Simon Weiser? Thought I heard him before. I guess not. All right. So I have myself, Gina Argento. I have Willis Elkins. Aaron Drinkwater. No. No, I see Kevin Costa. See Paul
Eric,
Kelterborn.
I'm here, Ryan.
Hi, Ryan. Mario Domerick on. She never misses a meeting. All right, that's quorum. Mario Domerick, Karen Nieves I have William Vega, I have Bronwyn, I have Paul. Okay, I believe we are good to go. Okay, so again, welcome everybody. So we're gonna just before we get started with the agenda, is there anyone here from United Limo or Go Car Corporation? Anybody representing United Limo or Go Car Corporation? Okay, well, if there's no objection, item number 3, base renewal licenses, is quick and dirty. It's United Limo is seeking to, they need a letter of no objection to renew their license. I don't believe we have, who's from the community board? Man, is it Jerry or Joanna?
It's me.
Hi, Jerry. I believe I'm correct in saying that we don't have any complaints against United Limo or Go Car. Is that correct?
Yeah, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Go Car is also changing its dispatch office. They're moving a couple blocks away, which is not an issue as far as I can see. But with nobody on the call to speak on their item, I think we can go ahead and just dispatch this and move on to the meatier agenda points, items 1 and 2, if that's fine. So I'll ask for a motion to send letters of no objection for United Limo and Go Car, if that's fine.
I say a motion to submit a letter.
William Vega.
No objection.
Karen seconds.
And Karen. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. All right, thanks everybody. So now we will move on back to item number 1. And I know some people need to jump off early, so we'll try to be respectful of that time. Commander Fahey, you have to be out by 7, is that correct?
Well, 7:30, but we got the Pulaski Bridge is stuck in the up position, so it might be sooner than that.
Okay, well, that's not great. We will try to, I think we're good. And we have your NCO as well, and I believe he will stay if possible, if you have to go. So,
Yeah.
Officer Matava, I'm here. I'll stay.
Yes, thank you, sir. Okay, so this item was brought by Karen Nieves and Will Elkins to talk about the Kingsland Avenue conditions at Greenpoint Avenue to the dead end of North Henry. We want to talk about the safety, enforcement, and infrastructure conditions at that location. And Willis has a presentation prepared that unfortunately I only had a brief moment to look at, but Will's going to walk us through it. And I believe you can just share your screen, Will, if you're ready to go.
Okay, cool.
Alex and Simon, you hear me?
I got you, Simon. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Okay, one sec. Everybody see
That's my full screen here. Okay, so thanks, Eric, for putting this on the agenda, and also thank you to all of the agency officials who are here, NYPD, DSNY, DOT. This is a longstanding and kind of complex situation with this stretch of Kingsland. So I'll just run through this. This presentation was actually modified from something we put together last year. And so when I say we, me representing Newtown Creek Alliance and also working with Evergreen Exchange, where Karen works as well. And we'll go through it. There's been a lot of issues that have been building up over the years and are sort of reaching a very much more critical point at this time. So here's a little bit of a map. So for those that are unfamiliar, this section of Kingsland, this is north of Greenpoint Avenue. It is a dead-end street that runs from Greenpoint Avenue and takes this very sharp turn to the left, or not really sharp, but takes a turn to the left and then dead ends basically where North Henry actually continues. And I'm sure a lot of folks on the call remember when North Henry Street was a through street before the upgrade of the wastewater treatment plant, and actually it technically continues here on the west side of Alaco recycling. And so this map just sort of shows the access and egress points that are here and the businesses. And I think it's really important to understand that this is, despite it, it's a dead end street, but this is a heavy industrial area, and there are significant amounts of heavy traffic that come through this stretch of Kingsland, serving the businesses here. And that, it's not just, there's 18-wheelers, there's trailers for film production, there's fuel trucks, dump trucks going to Alaco, box trucks, U-Hauls, and then there's also a significant amount of private vehicles, both people that are driving to work here. It's a little bit of an isolated spot, so there's not a lot of great public transit. And also, like, a lot of these jobs as well require people bringing materials to work. There's also a lot of an increased number of private car services that are bringing people to some of these areas as well. So there's a lot of traffic and a lot of, big intense traffic coming through. This is a better photo. This is taken from the roof of Storage Plus, and I thought we had someone from Storage Plus. Maybe Tanya's on the line. So sort of showing this stretch specifically, and again, showing the businesses that are here in orange, and then the agencies, I would say the wastewater treatment plant, and then also this back lot is Department of Sanitation. And then the yellow are what is sort of like the newer development in recent years, which is the sort of public access or the community facilities that are here as well. And so I'll go through this in a little bit of detail, but Kingsland Wildflowers, which is at the Broadway Stages facility, that's where Newtown Creek Alliance offices are. It's where I am right now. And so we manage the green roof that's here. It's a space that is open to the public during public events. We also bring field trips. We're having a field trip tomorrow, come in here. So it's an active space of having people come up and utilize the roofs for educational purposes. And then we have the Newtown Creek Nature Walk, and this is sort of the main thing, the extension. They created a new entrance here, just opened about a year ago. And so it's bringing a lot more foot traffic down to the Nature Walk. We also do in our educational programming, we utilize the Nature Walk, we utilize Kingsland Wildflowers. So there's a lot, we're literally bringing groups of school kids through this intersection, navigating it. The last section here is this plot of land that we call the Gateway to Greenpoint, and this is an open space project that we're working with DEP on. It's been in the works for many years, and this summer we'll see some form of activation. And so this is a whole nother sort of public space component that's mixed in this industrial area to provide space for local workers and residents in the neighborhood nearby. This photo also gives a indication. It's two-way street coming in, and then this section is basically, even though it's one road, it's still Kingsland Avenue. It's basically split in two, and so you have essentially 4 areas for parking, and then you have 4 travel lanes as well. And as you can see from this photo, there's barely any marking of anything on this stretch behind the treatment plant in terms of where traffic lanes are, what the directions are supposed to be, and we'll get a little further into that. This photo is actually, the other thing to mention too is that in addition to the nature walk creating this new access point, and there's a lot more foot traffic coming here, it's also that a lot of these businesses have been very, very busy for a long time, but also some of them are seeing, there's an increase in the amount of traffic that's coming here. So Department of Sanitation, they have a lot more traffic coming to this facility now than they did in years past. The Broadway Stages building, there are more active sound stages here, which is fantastic. It's a lot of job and activity that also means more people needing to travel to this area. Okay, so next slide. So another map just to show some of these green spaces that are sort of mixed in, and we can talk more about that. There's also this future restoration project that Newtown Creek Alliance is involved in, which will also be basically bringing people to this area, which again has been a dead-end space and has been very, this area near the nature walk has been kind of desolate for 20 years following the closure of the marine transfer facility back in 2001. So I'm just going to go through some general conditions, and I'm going to sort of like lay a little bit of the what's kind of happening on the ground, and also, Karen has been very, very involved in monitoring the conditions, working very closely with the businesses that are here, and working closely with the agencies to try to address some of this. So Karen, please chime in at any point, but I want to sort of lay a little bit of the foundation here before we start talking about solutions and what needs to happen. So general conditions here, as I mentioned, there's a line of Jersey barriers that runs down the middle of the street. Not entirely clear when that was installed. Could be a throwback from the 1990s when the Marine Transfer Station operated by DSNY was in operation. Nevertheless, it's there. It separates the road. It's 80 feet wide from sidewalk to sidewalk, so it's a very wide stretch of street. The north side of the street that runs alongside the Broadway Stages and Alaco facility are heavily trafficked. I mentioned that before in terms of what's happening, film production, but Alaco Recycling is a very busy recycling facility, and in some days they have a constant stream of trucks that are lining up, queued up to get into the facility for recycling. So a lot of heavy trucks that are here. The south side of the street is not used as much for that heavy truck traffic, but one of the issues is that there's no parking regulations for the south side of the street. So that's this entire curb section here, and then sort of both sides of the median, obviously because it's not a real it's not a real space. So there's no parking regs for basically all of the parking that you're seeing from this Google Maps image. And we'll talk about why that has become a major issue. Another thing to point out is the intersection is a real focal point and concern for safety for the people that are working here, and as I mentioned, the people that are coming, more people that are coming to this area. So aside from having the 80-foot street to cross, you also have, it's a four-way stop, but as you see, this is a direction where trucks are driving, every single day. And there is one stop sign that's basically hidden by a truck over here. So there is virtually, no one is stopping at this intersection. It's also because it's a gradual turn, it actually just sort of allows people to just speed through the turn. And so it's incredibly unsafe conditions. And so to cross the street is very hazardous. And also because of the trucks that are parked here, and again, because there's no parking regs, there's a lot of trucks that are parked here for long, very, very long periods of times. And all of those trucks are also adding to the safety conditions because they're blocking sight lines. So this is a very major issue, is this intersection in general and how to deal with this. The other thing worth pointing out too is that, I think we'll see on the next slide here, as I mentioned, this north side of the street is very, very busy from Alaco Recycling. So if you're at the Kingsland Wildflowers, if you're at the Broadway Stages building and you're trying to take a group of students down to the nature walk, this is not an ideal path because you have so much truck traffic. You have two entrances on this side going into the facility. You have very hazardous conditions. So the most obvious way, the safest way to do it is to cross the street, right, to the south side. Oops, sorry. And to walk along this sidewalk that is continuous. There's no entrances to any facilities here, to go straight to the nature walk. So it's again why this intersection is really important, because it's the safest way to get people from this side of the street over to the nature walk. So, one thing that we want to do is like be able to find a way that makes the operations safer and easier for the businesses that are here, and sort of separates out where there's going to be, potential conflict with pedestrians or people on bikes. I mean, the other aspect of it too is like the nature walk is like people go running there. And so there's literally like people come, and I see them every day out the window. People come running out of the nature walk, and they're basically, as soon as they get out, there's just a barrage of trucks, and it's really unclear where you're supposed to go. And often people go in the middle of the street because it's the most open space. The sidewalk is very narrow, and with illegally parked trucks, it creates this tiny tunnel. And so a lot of people, like, that seems like an unsafe place. So there's literally people that come running out of this area with unclear directions as to how to traverse the terrain here. So that's the north side, a lot of heavy truck traffic, 6 days a week. This is the south side that we talked about. So this is that sort of narrow passage that I discussed. Sidewalk is not very wide. There's also utility poles in the middle. And again, the trucks that are illegally parked here for long periods of time make this an unsafe condition. You're basically walking between two giant walls. It's an industrial area. There's not a lot of people out of there. So I think a lot of people, for their own safety, tend to avoid walking down this sidewalk. If there weren't trucks that were here creating this wall and there were more sight lines, it would have a very different feel. There has been a lot of other issues, abandoned vehicles. Fortunately, sanitation has responded to requests to address some of the abandoned vehicles and remove some of those, but it's a continuous issue, and we can get into details of talking about some of the actors that are here. But essentially, you have people that are utilizing this public street as a private truck yard. So they're warehousing. Sometimes certain companies will have up to 20 trucks that are warehoused here for long periods of times. They're doing repairs on them in the middle of the street. They're like keeping even things like forklifts parked on the street as part of their ways to work on the truck. So, it's not, I feel like I don't really have to say this. It's not a just use of public space, and it's not beneficial for the businesses that are here or the community. There's other issues too. There's really poor drainage in this area, which is unfortunate given that it's next to the DEP. These yellow barriers were installed a few years ago to help, not by DOT, but to help prevent the ongoing warehousing of large trucks, and to try to create smaller spaces for people that are actually driving to work here. So you can kind of see what's happening there. And then this is just a slide of, to recognize that this is not a new issue. This has been going on for many years. Members of the Newtown Creek Monitoring Committee have raised this issue to DEP and DOT in years past, knowing fair well that the nature walk was going to open. And unfortunately, nothing has, aside from enforcement, nothing significant has happened. And so this was a walkthrough that we had with the agencies and Emily Gallagher's office and Steve Levin's office, and obviously a lot of the businesses here, Mike from Malaco, amongst others, Tanya from storage. So that's a little bit about where we are. These are some basic recommendations, and I think that Karen and I, we've done had a lot of conversations with the stakeholders that are here, and we're very eager. And I know we have Monica from Broadway Stages, and of course Gina is on the call as well. I'm trying to look through the list if there's any other of the local stakeholders have joined us, Otanya, to talk about this, but this is some, I think, general recommendations that are very urgent and we're very eager to get addressed. So one is talking about the south side of the street to make it safer and more accessible for pedestrians and bicyclists, and a way to reconfigure parking so that it's actually serving people that need to utilize the space for parking, not as truck warehousing. So obviously including parking regulations on the south side of the street, the median area, but also thinking about ways we can configure this. So maybe instead of parallel parking, there could be 45-degree parking. So it actually is like serving cars and you can't park a giant truck there. The pedestrian crossing, obviously, at the intersection is a big issue. And then thinking about maintenance, the other aspect is that part of this roadway was repaved, and Karen can get into more of the details here last summer, but that was only this stretch here from Greenpoint Avenue to the 520 Kingsland building. This entire stretch, which is the area we're talking about, was not repaved. And so there are significant potholes. Alaca Recycling, they send their workers out on a regular basis to do patchwork of fixing the potholes. And so there's a lot of work that needs to be done just to improve the basic infrastructure. So we've talked extensively, again, with the agencies, with DOT. We talked about this around this time last year. And so we really want to see something happen soon. So maybe I'll pass it quickly to Karen. If there's any sort of glaring omissions that I made about this, but I think it sort of lays out a little bit of the baseline issues.
Willis, I think you actually covered everything. Yeah, I just thank you for, for putting this together. I so appreciate it. Yeah, as far as the paving, somehow the schedule got messed up for the rest of the roadway, and it was supposed to be first on the list for this paving season. And I think that's why this conversation now is really important, to see if there's something that can be done to mitigate the long ongoing issues of Kingsland, and to really prevent these this company from using our street as a storage and maintenance facility. And yeah, like Willis said, and I do want to thank DSNY and the 9-4 for as much as possible enforcement that has been ongoing. And we realize the constraints of the department. However, we really just want to ask for consistent enforcement for the time being, until we come up with that solution. And hopefully, if DOT is on the call, maybe they could shed some light on the when Kingsland is supposed to be on the schedule for repaving, and maybe we could get something done prior to the repaving schedule. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. This company is using our street. It's illegal, and we really want safety for all users. We want safety for the children that are going to the nature walk park. We want safety for the businesses, that they don't have to worry about pedestrians coming into the middle of the street. We really need some TLC, and we could we're just hoping that we could finally get this done. So, and thank you.
I want to just thank Leah and Willis for the wonderful presentation you put. I think one small thing we could also add is some more lighting on the south side if they're going to do the paving. Lighting, so that would facilitate when they do the tours and the nature walks. We have sufficient lighting on that side of the street. I know we light our side as much as we can, but maybe we can get some more lighting on the other side.
So I do have some stuff to say about this location. But just to respond to what Gina said, it, at any point, anybody, the community board or an individual could put in a request for us to do a lighting evaluation on any city street. So I would strongly recommend that you do that. But I think that the more interesting thing that I want to just say is that after about a year or two ago, Willis had a meeting with us and showed us a kind of conceptual presentation with a pedestrian walkway and a bikeway that would connect to the nature walk. And then so we set that up. We had the bike unit at that meeting, and I guess they'd been contemplating it and waiting for, a time that they could fit that into their schedule, amongst all the projects that are going on citywide and specifically, in Community Board 1. But after we had the walkthrough, I guess that was in the fall that you showed the picture of. And I saw myself how, busloads of children were coming and they were walking between trucks to get to the nature walk. I brought that information back and told them that I did think that it was important time now that the nature walk was open, that we really needed to have some focus on this. And as I understand it, the bike unit, after I saw that this was on the agenda, I started reaching out internally, and I found out from the bike unit that they are very close to having a proposal to show here, possibly as soon as next month. So I'm excited about that myself. And I also know that at that walkthrough, it was discussed that Assemblywoman Gallagher thought she had multimodal funds that might be able to go towards a project here. Now, I'm not sure, that's out of my wheelhouse. I'm not really sure how that could get incorporated, but it certainly helps the whole situation. So, and then I'm aware, I don't know why only half the area got resurfaced last year. And I know that there's a promise that we were going to come back and complete resurfacing this year. And the timing of that would, if we show a proposal that includes a bike lane to the community board, we'd have to get through that process, and the resurfacing would be coordinated with that. That's really all I have to say about it at this point.
Anna, can you just repeat that last point for me, that the repaving can't happen until the bike unit?
No,
is that not, that's not correct? Can you just
well,
restate it?
I think that the resurfacing, there needs to be a coordination. I didn't say that it can't happen until the bike unit presents, but like there's actually, now that there's a lot of things going on, like there's these barriers down the middle of the street that seem to be covering some sort of gas line. Like we need to understand what that's about. We didn't put those barriers in there, and we want to know if the barriers can be moved. They're covering a gas line, so we reached out to DEP, and I guess nobody from DEP is here, but we want to understand if, like, those markers that show the gas lines there, does that preclude removal of the barriers or moving the barriers? So that certainly would impact any kind of project that we do, and also would impact resurfacing, because if the barriers can be moved, then we could have perhaps a better resurfacing experience, as opposed to working around them, which is what they would have done had they been able to resurface that area last fall.
Thanks for that
I'm going to jump
clarification,
in.
Rhonda. Go ahead, Karen.
Yeah. So my question, Rhonda, is have you contacted National Grid? Because it wouldn't necessarily be DEP, I don't know if you can hear me, but I know prior to those Jersey barriers, it was just a double solid line straight down the middle of the road. So I don't know if whoever installed the Jersey barrier straight down, which was really for channelization and to get some sort of, you know, safety of the trucks, you know, instead of it being so wide and open and kind of Wild Wild
Sure.
West. So I'm not even sure if, you know, that's real, if it's like used Jersey barriers that they, you know, brought there. So, you know, I think National Grid or DOT doesn't have like schematics of what's underground when you're resurfacing.
Well, how
Well,
do you,
DOT doesn't keep those records, and I don't really know the process of, I don't know the process of what happens before the resurfacing happens. So I can't answer that.
Okay,
Right.
so would you need to contact then National Grid if just confirmation if there is a gas line that's running under there? Because I don't believe so, but
It
I
could
could be
be
wrong.
the Buckeye pipeline runs near here. So I'm not sure exactly where the route is, but it does run north and like the other side of Alaco and then connects to United Metro. So it could be
Okay,
Buckeye, but I think it's just Jersey barriers on top of the asphalt. So I as a non-roadway engineer and someone who doesn't know the full story of how those ended up there, I would assume that it's probably pretty easy to just move them and would probably would probably be like a good thing to do if there's a repaving to move the barrier so that there's, I don't know, because as you mentioned, it's not a sanctioned DOT design.
No, it's
So,
not a sanctioned DOT
right.
design,
So,
but there's concern about these markers for the gas lines. And so I'm sorry, is that not something that DEP has records of? If there's gas lines there, whether it has to do with National Grid or not? I mean, I could reach out to National Grid, that's fine.
but Rhonda, when you have to pave a street, what process do you normally go
right.
through? I mean, every
Okay,
street
so,
has gas lines. I don't think this is the only street in Greenpoint that has gas lines. Am I wrong? Or,
oh, and we resurface, we don't, it's not reconstruction, we don't dig.
We lose her?
I think she's frozen.
yeah, she's
Miss,
back. She's back.
oh, okay. Go ahead, Rhonda. You got cut off after resurfacing is not reconstruction.
Right, resurfacing is not reconstruction. So, I mean, I don't want to misspeak here. I don't know what process they go through when they're vetting an area for resurfacing. But if that's just surface work. So if there's gas lines underneath or sewer lines underneath the street, I don't think resurfacing has any impact on it. In this case, there are these markers that you don't usually see. There are these pipes coming up, right? You saw pictures of that in the email that I sent. You know what I'm talking about? There are these pipes that are coming up that are specifically marking this gas line. So I think there's a concern of do the barriers have anything to do with these gas line markers?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the normal process is for DOT. I mean, it just seems like reaching out to both National Grid and to the Buckeye Pipeline, which is in the area. And I'm sure those are familiar. See they have white and orange markers up and down Greenpoint Avenue and some of the adjacent streets. So they will definitely know exactly where their gas lines are. So yeah, and I think, the other aspect of it is about, not to jump ahead, but it's about like how much of what a redesign is looking like, and if it can be achieved with repaving and paint and installing barriers in different places, then ideally it won't be an issue. If there's gas lines like right near the curb and we're talking about doing improvements to improve stormwater drainage and stuff like that, then maybe it would be an issue. But I would like to believe that between DEP and National Grid and Buckeye Pipeline and DOT, we could get that sorted out pretty easily.
Right. Well, as I said, I reached out to National Grid. I'm sorry, I did not reach out to National Grid. I reached out to DP. I've never even heard of Buckeye Pipeline because that's not something that, that's had anything to do with the work that I do. But, okay, I could Google them unless somebody has some sort of contact information for that. And yeah, we could certainly reach out to National Grid and see what we could find out from them.
So Rhonda, can I just jump in here for a minute? Good evening, this is
Sure.
Claudette Workman from DOT. So with RRM, our standard procedure on a full resurfacing project, we call it 811 and we schedule a utility mark out. So we do check to see exactly what's going on underground as well.
But that being said, I was asked by RRM to see if we can move the barriers and if they have anything to do with these pipeline markers that are sticking up above the ground.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. We should probably have a meeting and discuss a little further with roadways. Let's set something up so this way we can have an accurate response to provide.
Sure.
Thank you, Ms. Workman and Rhonda. So in light of that, I'm going to leave the record open. We won't. I don't have to submit the transportation report until the 7th of
Eric?
April. Yes, Jerry.
If you have a second. All right, so I just called Paul Pulo because basically he's lived there all his life. So he says the Jersey barriers were put there. He's not sure if DOT put them there or Department of Sanitation put them there, but they were basically leftovers from when that was an active marine transfer site. So the barriers were put down the middle of the street because basically the Department of Sanitation owned half the street because their trucks were going in and out on a 24-hour basis to get to the marine transfer. The barriers were put in the street so that there would be some sort of semblance of a street opening for people who were not DSNY trucks. He says the barriers can be moved at any time. He is not aware of any gas pipe under those barriers. They were put there basically to just give a semblance of order to the vehicular flow going in and out for the trucks accessing the marine transfer station.
So Jerry, that goes back almost 20 years.
Oh, absolutely. When the marine transfer was active, that's
Right.
what Paul.
In
Like I said,
2001, right?
like I said, Paul with Metro Fuel, he lived there, so he,
Right.
I called him, and this is what he has to say.
Okay. So thank you, Jerry. So in light of that information, and Ms. Cunningham, I'll address this to you as well. If that is the case, that sanitation did place those Jersey barriers, can you check back with your office to see if there's any record of sanitation having placed those barriers there? One. And two, Rhonda and Ms. Workman, if we could get either an answer that a meeting has been scheduled with National Grid to really just make 100% sure that it's not a gas line, but if there are venting towers there that we need to figure out why they're there and what the situation is with that. And then
Is that what you were suggesting, Claudette? A meeting with National Grid?
Yes, Rhonda, we can have a meeting with National Grid. Actually, if you prefer on-site, we should schedule an on-site with National Grid and RRM and just kind of go from there.
okay, great. And so hopefully you can get that meeting or walkthrough scheduled before let's say the week of the 5th, I guess that would be 4th. April 4th, and then if you could report back, and I will add it to the record. If you can't, we'll put this as a follow-up item for the April committee meeting. I just want to state that now while we're still talking about it, but just one one follow-up item for the committee to consider. Willis, do we know? You said you don't know who put those yellow barriers in there? The yellow jerseys that splits up the parking?
Alaco Recycling had put the barriers there.
The yellow barriers.
We had put the yellow barriers. Yeah, we had put the yellow barriers there to give pedestrians some parking, because we couldn't control the abandoned vehicles and the out-of-state trucks being parked all over the street.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to get that.
I'm sorry, Eric.
No
What is April 4th though? Is that the date of the next transportation committee meeting?
No, I have to submit the report by the 7th of April. So if you get me a follow-up by the 4th, I can include it I can amend the report before I submit it to the board for the April full board meeting.
Okay, well, certainly I'll do my best. I can't.
No, I understand.
for
It would be
National
great to
Grid,
have that as a follow-up.
I will
by the
make
4th,
every
but I
effort to have that meeting before that date, sure.
Sure, and then if otherwise, we can come back to this item in April at the committee meeting. Oh,
You know the date for the April transportation
12th.
committee?
Tuesday, April 12th is full.
That's
board.
the transportation committee. Oh, that's the
I'm
full
sorry, no,
board.
that's the full board meeting. I do not have a date for the April meeting yet.
Okay.
Any other committee members have questions?
Eric, I thought Andrew wanted to speak. He
Oh, I'm
raised his
sorry.
hand before.
Okay, William, can you monitor hands for me? Because Willis is doing his double duty here. Okay, so actually right now I see Andrew and I see Katie. I see Ryan. Okay, so let's recognize Andrew Epstein from Emily Gallagher's office, Assemblywoman Emily Gallagher's office. Thanks for coming. And go ahead, Andrew.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Happy to be part of this conversation. We were part of the walkthrough in the fall and definitely want to see the conditions there addressed. I just wanted to respond on the question. I've been looking, since our walkthrough, I've been looking in on our front to see whether there was assembly capital funding that could be contributed to this kind of project. It remains a little bit murky, but certainly if DOT is developing a proposal that would have some cost estimates with it, Rhonda and we can follow up and I can try to drill down on that question. My one note of caution is that the cap, just in trying to tie up even, capital allocations from years back, they can move extremely, extremely slowly. And the sort of member capital allocations are for, projects somewhere between less than $1 million, but not less than 1 million, but more than like 150. But it's a very bureaucratic and extremely slow moving process. One that we'd be willing to explore. We would just need more details and cost estimates. But I'm really excited to hear, Rhonda, that the DOT might have a proposal for this area coming up, because we'd love to be involved in advocating for however to make that happen. So just wanted to add my support to that. And I'm here to try to explore the capital funding operations from the assembly side. They're just slow and not a ton of money. So that's kind of what I would throw in there.
No, of course. And we will have a proposal. And possibly as soon as next month, we'd be making a request to present.
I just wanted to mention one thing. Willis is not on because all of the power went out just now at 359 Kingsland, Norman Avenue, North Henry, something that happens constantly. It's like a third world country in this part of Brooklyn. So I have to probably get off the call soon to go address 700 people with no power.
Katie, you're next.
Thank you. I see Willis is back, maybe on his phone. And thank you, Andrew, for the Assembly members' support on this. And I also just want to say to Willis and Karen and others, I feel your pain because the entire presentation rung true for me because it's something as the Under the K Bridge Park manager, we see all the time. And I think in a broader scale, and Eric, Chair, I'd like to formally request being at the next committee meeting for that plan as well, because what we're talking about here is the creation of open space and green space in heavily industrial areas, right? So Under the Cambridge Park and the Newtown Creek extension both opened within a few months of each other last year. And it sounds like I haven't been involved in Willis's and NCA's outreach about street improvements around the Newtown Creek extension and Kingsland Wildflowers. But everything that you all are talking about are things that we have also been talking about around Under the K. It's this lack of street safety, visibility. You have children crossing the street, and if anyone knows me, I'm not generally an alarmist, especially at these meetings. But I'd like to be on the record to predict that I guarantee children are going to die crossing these streets, because that is the level of danger that is taking place. And we have done outreach to elected officials or the DOT. And I'm very concerned, as I'm sure Willis is as well, that the new season is coming up. And I haven't heard anything. It sounds like you all haven't heard anything. And so, Rhonda, if you are putting together a proposal for that industrial area, I strongly urge DOT to also come back to a couple blocks away, for the most part, to another section of the similarly industrial area, to implement some of the street safety measures that we discussed. That I'm glad to see Captain Fahey on the line, because I know the 94th also requested certain regulations for that area, because they're very well aware of how dangerous the trucks can be. And in fact, this morning, I witnessed, probably a dozen emergency vehicles barely be able to make it through because you had abandoned flatbeds and trucks on a street around Under the K responding to a tragic accident, and they couldn't get through, or they could get through, but it was stalled because it was like you have giant trucks on either side that have just been abandoned. So this is an issue, obviously, at Kingsland, but it's an issue in the industrial area at large that I think needs to be addressed. So it's not just here.
Thank you. Ryan, please.
Hey, I'm echoing what everyone said, and I assume that we're just gonna have a detailed discussion of the bike plan when DOT brings us back something. But I just want to encourage to think bigger, just because when I was environmental chair, we lost a couple of pocket parks that were scheduled to be there around Greenpoint Avenue because it wasn't because of the infrastructure for National Grid. And so I just want to remind people that we had a bunch of letters that the community board supported in protest of those pocket parks going away on Greenpoint Avenue. And there's space to make the bike lanes bigger, the pedestrian avenue big enough for not just two pedestrians, but like a classroom to walk through. So just hoping for creativity. But I'll wait till the official discussion. And thank you.
Thank you, Brown. Next, just one correction, it's Deputy Inspector Fahey. Brown.
Thanks, William. I actually just wanted to echo what Ryan said, which is obviously this is a very complex intersection, and represents all of the complexity that we all live with regarding the intersection of residential, open space, and industrial use. And I know that we'll be resolving issues with NatGrid and other utilities and DOT and DEP and the local industry, but I, just note that this is, according to Willis's presentation, an 80-foot wide street, I think he said, and that's a lot of space, and there's a lot of logic to incorporating not only a bike lane, but also consider the extension of public space in some of that 80 feet of width, connecting to the forthcoming park and the newly opened nature walk. And so, yeah, I understand a proposal is coming, and I look forward to seeing it. And that's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, William. Yeah, no,
Kevin,
Kevin,
I'm sorry. Before you get started,
Sure.
Can anybody with an open mic please mute? There was a lot of interference when Bronwyn was speaking, and I think it's our famous WebEx problems. Okay, thank you very much. Go ahead, Kevin. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, I've spent a lot of time walking back here, over to North Henry Street Shoreline and the Nature Walk. And I do think absolutely like this is a really, really deeply dangerous area. Like Katie is not exaggerating, and Katie is not prone to exaggeration, that someone is absolutely going to get killed in this space if we don't do something. And that's for the K-Bridge space and this space. Phase 3 of the Nature Walk, we've not had a full spring and summer season where these spaces have been open. And with Gateway opening, phase 3 of the Nature Walk, it is, it's going to be busy back there, So yeah, I think that this is an incredible opportunity. I mean, this is the space, half of that street alone, the 40 feet alone along the treatment plant is just over a half acre of space, and you have the Nature Walk, the exit of the Nature Walk, and you have Gateway to Greenpoint coming. Like those are spaces that this community has fought long and hard for over many, many, many years. And yeah, it would just be really great to see a public plaza there, more pedestrian space for bikes, while also balancing the needs and the safety and the use for those industrial businesses. That's really so important. But I definitely want to see more than an 8-foot sidewalk, for pedestrian space. I think that road is the width of McGinnis Boulevard. The road and the sidewalks is 97 feet wide. So that is the width of McGinnis Boulevard is the back end of Kingsland. So I think that, I hope that the DOT plan is reflective of that and, helps us utilize that space for pedestrians and cyclists, because there's going to be a lot of folks enjoying that Nature Walk and Gateway when it opens. So
Thank you,
thanks,
Kevin.
guys.
Thank you, Kevin.
So
Preston?
I think we William,
President
before we
Johnson.
go on, Deputy Inspector Fahey, I know you need to jump off. Is there anything that you would like to say before you need to go, just so I can get any comments you'd like to make on the record for this meeting?
Sure. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I just wanted to, say a couple of things. Like in my 2 years here, I think we've been having this discussion. I think we can all agree when children and trucks are around, we all have a concern. So first and foremost, as the adults, as the people that have been saying that this is an unsafe space, if we are moving children through this space, we have to do everything in our power to ensure that they're safe. So I would ask that who's ever coordinating these trips, touch base with the precinct, because until we get this straightened out, we would have a detail over there. We can have a car, we can do something to facilitate the movement from point A to point B. So as the weather gets nicer and you're going to expect increased school trips, I would really appreciate it if we could coordinate with the precinct so that we're aware of these children moving in that space. I've been talking with, Karen, Rhonda, you'll know, last August, that Jersey barrier is creating much of the problem because you're putting trucks on either side of that Jersey barrier. And at the time, I've been asking about this since last August. So yes, we have problems with abandoned vehicles, but that Jersey barrier facilitates double the space for vehicles to come and park and be abandoned. To our end, our enforcement, we've given over 100 parking summons in 2021. We've given well over 100 B summonses, those are moving violations, to moving trucks in and around Greenpoint Avenue. Again, we do have enforcement. I know people have mentioned consistent enforcement. I would take exception to that because that's not the only area that we're policing. We're policing by monitor. There's trucks moving through the precinct as well. So, my traffic team does their best to address all conditions throughout the whole entire precinct. So I just want to say that getting that barrier out of there eliminates double the space for these trucks to sit there. So if any headway can be made with that, I think that we'll see, like Willis said, the sight lines, we'll see improvements in the area. I understand that for whatever reason, maybe it's always been done that way or they've been sitting there, but we really need to ask that question because it also impedes our ability to conduct enforcement because we create a space where it's a no man's land. Nobody really knows what's going on either side of the barrier. We don't have the signage. So there's impediments to our ability to be able to do some enforcement. We've talked to Highway. I've been in touch with the Highway District Commanding Officer. We have the Motor Carrier Safety Unit. Their purview really is moving trucks, moving violations on these trucks that then can get added into the federal database. So we are doing joint operations with them as far as trucks moving in and out of the area, but they really can't assist us with the, the parking violations and the abandoned vehicles. So if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to take them, but until we get this right, I really would ask that who's ever in charge of programming, that, you be in touch with the precinct so that we can ensure the safe transport of the kids to and from, the nature walk or wherever they're going in the area.
Eric, I just wanted to follow up with one
Go
thing
ahead, Kid.
about the night we requested the nighttime regs. Actually, the precinct submitted a request for approval to put the nighttime regs up. And I still don't know where that's at. Sanitation was supposed to approve it, and then DOT was supposed to install it. So does anyone have the status? This is actually the second time that we're asking. When are those regulations going to be put up?
I'm sorry, this is overnight cleaning regulations? Right? That's what you're talking about? Karen?
Correct. Yes.
If what were they requested by sanitation? Because if they were, I can follow up with borough engineering.
Rhonda, I have a DOT log. We just requested signage. We were general signage because there's the absence of the signage. So that was an impediment to our being able to even write summonses in most of the area. So that was dated back in, I think it's early October. So I can give you the log number for that.
Sure.
I'll email it to you. Is that good?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
But I'm sorry, what did you request? If I could just understand.
We put in an Intel report that we're requesting signage for the side of the street that has no signage. So basically it's legal for anybody to park there. Without signage, the officers have no summons to write.
Well, trucks aren't allowed to park there overnight, but regardless of signage.
Again, we wrote them and most of them are being dismissed because in commercial zoned areas, they're able to leave them there as long as they're not there for over 3 hours. So,
right, they're allowed to park for 3 hours.
So we don't have the resources, again, we can come back, but in New York City, we generally don't mark the tires. So, my resources are finite. We can send somebody there, but I can't guarantee that the officer is free 3 hours later to come back. So it's leaving room for them to say, well, I moved the car, it's creating a defense for them. And we're seeing these summonses dismissed. So
Sure.
if there was
Okay,
clear signage, it would help, the infractions stick.
I'm just a little confused because what signage did you request?
I believe it was the nighttime cleaning regs.
Right. Well,
Because
again,
the
if
cleaning
cleaning regs have to be requested by sanitation, that means that they're going to clean. But I can go back and look at what we have in the system. Captain Fahey will send me the tracking number and I'll look into that. But again, as I understand it, if you're talking about cleaning regs need to be, there's a system for sanitation to tell us when they want to clean and we sign for that. But however, if PD is asking us to do just no standing anytime.
That's what it was. There was no
overnight
standing.
regulations.
We requested
that's a
no
different
standing
story.
over there. Sorry.
Okay, so you requested no standing for overnight hours.
The Intel report was no standing. I don't know if he specified overnight hours, but based on our mutual conversations, we put in the Intel report to get the signage put up.
Okay, I'm sure you don't want it to be no standing anytime though, because there are people that have to park there
I would like it to be no standing anytime because that would facilitate no trucks being there, but I'm sure that doesn't lend itself for the businesses that are there.
Okay, so I'll look for your email. Thank you, Captain.
Karen or Gina, any
Yeah,
thoughts
we
on no
also,
standing anytime?
I mean, if we could do it
Just while we're on that
overnight,
point.
yeah, if we could do it all overnight, that would be better because again, we do need, you know, the parking on the Newtown Creek side. Also, I just want to again point out that we did request, okay, and I was told by the 94th that since the nighttime cleaning regs was missing on the Newtown Creek side and was only on, you know, the Alaco side, that a request was submitted for that. If that didn't happen, then we need to submit the request. If you guys could double check if there was anything in the system, sanitation, for the nighttime regs to be put up. And if not, then we need to submit that and get that done as well. Separate
not a-
from the no standing.
Sorry, we're not opposed to street cleaning regulations on the south side, but we have not received, from what I've been told thus far, a formal request for them. And it's a little strange. I could be misinformed, but I believe it comes from the community board, not from NYPD, generally for the street cleaning purposes. But I'm happy to double check on that.
Thank you, Ms. Cunningham. And when you, so we're also asking about the timing for those Jersey barriers. If you could get back to us.
Yes, I'm sorry. I did nod my head as you were saying it because I know you
No,
were
I know.
addressing
I
both
know you
us
did.
and
No, I know you
and
did.
DOT. But yeah, I will definitely follow up if we have any history about the Jersey barriers or, you know, if sanitation had placed them there.
Right, but also on the last point.
Which point, sorry?
About no, I'm back on Jersey barrier. Karen, on
Nighttime cleaning regs.
nighttime, right, thank you. Nighttime cleaning regs, whether you know, anybody from DSNY has a record of that coming from I know we haven't sent it from the community board while I've been.
I believe they would have, I would have received that notification because I did ask already. And like I said, what I was told was that we are not opposed to it, but I don't think that we currently have received any request for street cleaning overnight. But we would not be opposed to it on the south side.
All right, well, stay tuned
but
because I have a feeling that you're going to get one.
Okay.
All right, but if you could, but still, if you could, you know,
I will double
and
check
just-
that. I will double
Great.
check that. Absolutely.
All right, cool.
Eric, we
any
have
other
Preston.
questions for Captain? Oh, sorry.
Preston Johnson had his hand raised.
Okay, hang on. Before we get to that, any committee members or agencies? Any other questions for Inspector Fahey? I just don't want to be respectful of her time. Anybody going once?
Just gonna say thank you for her service, Deputy Inspector Fahey.
Right on.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you. I have a
committee
few
only,
more-
Kevin. Sorry.
I have a few more minutes, so I can stick
Oh
around.
yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Eric Preston is with DOT and he's with the bike unit. So
I'm sorry. Say that again, Rhonda.
Preston, you said that Preston had his hand raised?
William
Johnson?
said Preston had his hand raised.
All right, he's with the DOT bike unit.
Okay, let's hear from him, and then I'll take Kevin.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, my name's Preston Johnson. I'm with the bike unit, like Rhonda said. And this has really been great to try to get some information about what you're thinking. I just had a couple points that I'd like to clarify. I guess with the number of moving lanes, like, is there any sort of attachment to like the idea of like having that type, I don't know if for lack of a better word, a service road, or would just combining it all into just 2 lanes be like a change that could work for the operations of all the businesses there?
I mean, I think I don't want to speak for the businesses that utilize this. I think that there's, the issue is that sometimes when they're backed up, when operations are sort of full peak, it is sometimes difficult to access certain facilities. I certainly think that there is I would say that there's a lot of space right now that's dedicated both to parking and to travel. And so hopefully there is a way you could reconfigure the street so that there's less of that and it's increased safety for everybody. But I think that, it needs to be taken into consideration in visiting the site when the operations are kind of in full swing, both film production and Alaco, to understand how much space is being used. But, a lot of it, as we talked about, there's currently 4 lanes of parking. So, finding a way to reconfigure that would probably help, alleviate some of those other needs. But I don't want to speak for the businesses in terms of what they think would work. And certainly I think that, we would be very open to having a conversation on site or virtually that's really focused on specifically the design. I think that what we want to talk about tonight is make sure that everyone's fully aware of this so we can set the groundwork for moving forward with a design that all the stakeholders feel very good about, because as was mentioned, it's 80 feet wide. It's a lot of space to work with, and it shouldn't be too difficult to accommodate everyone's needs.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree with Willis, and definitely that we need to look at, having space for, queuing, which happens.
Queuing, can you elaborate?
Trucks that are waiting to go to Alaco.
Right.
They line up down the block.
Okay. No, it's good to know. And I understand you have the concern about the illegal truck parking. I guess I have the question, are you hoping to provide legal parking for trucks? I mean, for instance, if one side became angled parking and it's no longer possible to put a truck there, is that a problem?
No, we actually prefer we actually prefer it to be just for vehicles and not, that's part of the problem right now. They just store, the trucks, and then it's a nice place for them to, to dump abandoned vehicles and abandoned trucks as well. So if it's just for, regular vehicles, I think we'd all prefer for that.
Okay.
I'll just say I know that all the power on our blocks went out, as Gina mentioned, so I think Monica and Gina are still dealing with that. But they're, Broadway stages, when there's production happening in the building, they have a similar operation as other sound stages where they get permits for parking on the streets that are adjacent to the facility. So there's no, it wouldn't be an issue. Also the businesses need actual parking for small cars. So angled parking would be very helpful. And I see actually Mike Brandt, who has his hand up, it works for production in the building. So he might be able to provide a little bit more insight into the parking needs and issues here as well.
Yeah, I would just say that we don't have any ambition to park trucks on the street. We park within our own footprint there. Occasionally we park something over on the other side, but we are for having automobile parking and not having the trucks stay there overnight. And thanks to Willis and Karen for really coming through with a plan and talking about it with everybody. It's really nice to hear this. That's all I had to say.
Great, thank you so much. Can just to respond to that, when you say park on the other side, what did you mean?
Oh, where it angles off, sometimes we use over across from where the oil station is. So if you're coming on Kingsland, the main issue of concern here is the left fork, but sometimes we park along the right fork there
Okay.
where it dead ends.
Okay. Great. Well, those were my questions, and it's really helpful. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Preston.
Kevin?
Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
Hey, yeah, I guess this is a question for Deputy Inspector Fahey, I guess, and also kind of the group generally. But I think that it's obviously some of this has been a little bit frustrating because I think that this area back there is such a tangle of like jurisdictions and responsibilities. But I guess like for DOT, like the Jersey barricades, like if I just took a bunch of Jersey barricades and dumped them in the middle of Humboldt, like they'd be removed. So I don't know why they can't just be removed. If they're causing such a problem, they should just be removed. I mean, they're not. You can't take Jersey barricades and dump them on McGinnis Boulevard or on Greenpoint Avenue or on Humboldt or anywhere else. They'd be removed immediately, right? They're causing a major issue and problem and a danger, so they should be removed. In terms of these trucks themselves, if they're parking illegally, and I think that though. I think that it's appreciated, right? Like the offer of help from the 94th precinct to say, if all these field trips are going to be there, like let's give all these field trips basically a police escort because it's that dangerous. Well, then let's get the 94th precinct back there for a couple of hours and watch the trucks. And when they're there for more than 3 hours, tow them, and then put up the no standing signs. I think that like there's some stuff that's getting lost a little bit here. Like DOT can put up the no standing signs, they can remove the barricades, and the police can tow the vehicles. Like if what we're talking about is every time a field trip goes to phase 3 of the Nature Walk or Kings and Wildflowers, to call the precinct to do that, like in terms of resources, like let's just have the cops tow the trucks and get rid of the trucks. If they're all towed at once, or if the tow trucks come and they bring them all out of there, I don't know, how much longer it'll be till they're back there again. If all of a sudden they're all towed out of there, and I understand that this is complicated, but I think also it's
Kevin,
like,
we did, the area was clear. Officer Marmol, who's no longer with us, spent a lot of time and effort, and I have the pictures that were sent to Karen Nieves. We've devoted a lot of time to this, and it seems to be a persistent problem. So immediately, if we're having this conversation, that right now it is very unsafe for children to be passing through there, and they are passing through there, until all the agencies get together and this is fixed, then that's one thing that we can offer. Because like Katie said, if somebody's going to get killed, then I'd rather prevent that until we decide whether it's going to be repaved, whether the Jersey barriers are going to be removed. So that's one immediate thing to ensure the safety of the people that are coming through there. So, I'm hearing that it's very, very unsafe.
Sure.
So,
but you guys have the tow trucks.
so
right?
these are heavy tow trucks that are required. So
Sure.
it's we have one heavy tow truck for the entire city. Furthermore, we don't have the pound space to tow these tow trucks. So we've been in talks with, transportation. They will come out as a favor and take, 1 or 2 trucks, but this is a pervasive problem. This isn't just a problem that, with those Jersey barriers there, we don't have the, if it's an open street, that's very clear. No one's going to be parking in the middle of the street. When my cops go there, we can, ticket them, tow them, give them a B summons. We have all these available to us. This is a very unclear area because of the way the street is set up. So if those barriers have been there for 20 years, even more so why people feel licensed to be parking there. So we just need some clarity with whether these barriers can be there. And then the responsible agency can get them out of there, which will greatly facilitate. There is no, then we'll have that big open space. So anyone parking in the middle of the street is absolutely wrong, if that makes sense.
Karen?
May I add
Karen?
something real fast, Eric?
Go ahead.
Thanks. Just because we had experience with this where, we were requesting Deputy Inspector Fahey to tow some trucks, right? But the issue was the signage, because I understand the precinct's issue where they're not giving summonses because there aren't regulations, right? Without regulations, they can't give summons. Well, we also contacted private tow companies to get rid of the trucks. The private tow companies aren't going to do that without the summons, and the precinct's not going to do the summons without the regulations. So the issue here is the regulations. And so, DOT, if sanitation needs to be involved in the regulations that have been requested 6 months ago, let's just coordinate that as soon as possible. And I am talking about Kingsland, but I'm also talking about, of course, Under the K, because these are just such parallel issues.
Karen?
Yeah. But you have to understand, it goes back to we only have one heavy tow throughout the whole city, which I think is insane. It's absurd that we're fighting for one heavy tow truck throughout five boroughs. We're waiting months and months to get one truck towed, two trucks towed. Even our elected officials had requested for underneath Meeker Avenue and waited 5 months to get one truck towed. So I think that's part of the problem as well. Because, okay, fine, we could put all the signage up and we could put no standing, and then who's going to tow it? We could ticket it, but who's going to come and tow it? So it goes back to that. This is a citywide problem. This isn't only in our area, but it's more predominantly in the industrial zones because they could get away with it. So, I don't, whoever, the elected officials are on the call, I really would, ask for additional funding. Let's get some more, tow trucks. Also, Deputy Inspector Fahey had mentioned, that there's no storage for these, and that the tow pounds are over capacity. If there's no license plate and no VIN, we could get DSNY. They have a heavy tow, and they could just go and recycle the truck and, take it away. But so I think it goes back to, again, not only on Kingsland, but throughout our entire neighborhood, this is what's been going on. As Katie said, underneath the K Bridge. So I think we need to really come up with a solution. And if it's asking the elected officials to get additional funding so that this way we could have the tools for, the cops and sanitation, to tow these vehicles, then that's what needs to be done. And then the city needs to come up with a solution on where to put them, and then also we spoke about increasing the fines, was, another thing that, we spoke with Assemblywoman, member Gallagher's office. These storage tow tickets are a drop in the bucket. They rather just pay these fines instead of renting out a yard. So, it's multi-layered. And I think piece by piece, if we all come together and find the solution, whether it's legislation, whether it's, funding for, NYPD to get additional, heavy tows so that we're all not fighting for one tow truck. So I just wanted to throw that out there because it's extremely frustrating, time after time, there's a pile of tickets on a truck, but yet they can't tow it because we have to wait. Another borough has the tow truck. So, and I just wanted to mention that as well. Sorry.
Thanks, Karen. So we've been on this item for an hour and 20 minutes. I believe it's worth every minute. I just want to do another round for committee first. Any questions for the agencies that are on the call? And then if any of the agencies would like to make a closing statement, and then we'll move on. Willis?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to go back to the point about the barrier in the middle, and I think we recognize it's an issue, but also, just removing the barrier as is not really going to improve anything, because the trucks are still going to park there even without a barrier in the middle. It may actually reconfigure, parking to be more insane or illegal use to be, less controlled. So I just want to sort of caution about removing the barrier for the sake of removing the barrier without an actual plan as to what a redesign is going to look like. And you know, and same thing too, that we really want to make sure that like looking at a proposal, we have buy-in from everybody, and you know, DEP should also be involved in this conversation. I know we've invited them, but they own that whole southern section of the walkway, and then they have some, you know, they should have some responsibility here.
Thanks, Willis. Committee, anyone else? No? Okay. Any of the agencies want to have a last comment? Rhonda, sanitation, NYPD. Okay, hearing none. All right, Ms. Cunningham, we'll be looking for some follow-up on Jersey barrier history and
Just as a point of clarity,
sure.
you guys are thinking this was about 20 years ago that the barriers were placed there? Yes?
Sorry, I wasn't around 20 years ago at this spot, but my understanding is that it would predate 20 years ago, because 20 years ago is when the Marine Transfer Station closed.
Right,
And so
21,
this would go before.
Or 01.
This would have,
01.
they would have been placed, you know, back in the 80s or 90s at some point to, as Jerry described, and thank you, Jerry, for calling Paul Pula for background, but that they essentially they were placed and they've been sort of obsolete in terms of their original intention for the past 21 years.
The incinerator closed in 94. So
well, and but the Marine Transfer Station was still operating.
Marine Transfer Station.
Yeah, 2001.
Okay, so Ms. Cunningham again, history of the Jersey barrier placement, if possible, and any requests you may have from anybody over there regarding night reg signs.
Should we make a motion, Eric?
I'm ready. I'm ready for that motion, Karen.
Willis, it's the south side of the street. Okay. So if I could make a motion to send a letter to sanitation requesting nighttime regulation signage on the south side of Kingsland.
I second it.
Okay, from where to where? From Greenpoint Avenue to
North Henry to Greenpoint Avenue. From North Henry. Well, it's all still Kingsland. North Henry to it's Greenpoint Avenue, but I think there's already signage up on that one stretch. It's just the Newtown Creek side going towards sanitation.
okay. Okay. So letter to sanitation to include night cleaning regs on the south side of Kingsland, North Henry to Greenpoint Avenue.
Right.
Seconded by William Vega. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries. Okay. And then thanks everybody. And then Rhonda, we will hope to communicate regarding a meeting with National Grid to assess why those vent pipes are there. And am I missing something else for follow-up? With that was the only item for follow-up before, let's say, April 4th, if possible, right? Is Rhonda still on?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yes, I think that's the only, I took, I'm taking notes, and yes, that's the only thing that I have for follow-up for DOT that involves the community board, and Inspector Fahey is going to follow up with me regarding the request that was submitted and the no standing overnight would certainly work with overnight cleaning regulations anyway. So if we have both those requests, I think that can be reconciled.
Great.
Rhonda, I already emailed you the log number.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Inspector, could you send that to the board office as well, please, for the record?
Sure.
Thank you. To the Transportation Committee attention. All right. I believe we've covered a lot of ground. Is Willis and Karen, are you satisfied? Any last comments?
I
Any
just
last
want to thank
comments?
everyone. I just want to really, really thank everyone. And I know, it's frustrating, and I'm so sorry if I sound frustrated. But yeah, I just want to thank everyone, and thanks for putting this on the agenda. And I'm looking forward to DOT's proposal next month.
Okay, great. And Rhonda, if there's anything that you can share with the committee regarding that bike study that you were talking about, that would be great, and hopefully we can hear it at the April meeting. That would be fantastic. All right, so thank you everybody for joining. I just wanted, did I see Officer Molina? Yes, okay. So Officer Molina, thanks for joining as well. All right, with that, I thank the agencies, and we will move on to item number 2, which is Friends of Cooper Park, Olive Masbeth intersection redesign proposal by returning champion Paul Kelterborn, who will give us a preview of what we can do over there. Go ahead, Paul. You have the floor.
I'm sorry, Eric. I gotta jump off.
I
I'm
know.
so sorry.
Bye, Karen.
I'm so
Thank you.
sorry, guys. Wish I
No,
was.
thanks so much.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right,
Thank
here we
you,
go.
Eric. Everyone can
And
see.
just everybody, if you can turn off your cameras and mute, just because it makes these presentations a little less clunky. Thanks.
Okay. You can see my screen, right, Eric? Yeah. Okay, good. All right. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, my name is Paul, and I'm a public member of the Transportation Committee, and I'm also one of the leaders of Friends of Cooper Park. I live on Cooper Park in East Williamsburg, and just to orient everyone, here is a map of the park. You've got Morgan Avenue on the east side. It's mostly industrial on that side of the park, with a lot of trucks, and Masbeth running along the north side. Also gets used a lot as a truck route, although I don't think it's supposed to be. It's a very busy street, a lot of speeding on Masbeth. It's been a persistent problem. There are a couple of speed humps that have been added over the years, but I think due to their locations, people still have the opportunity to get up a lot of speed. So it's a dangerous street, and it has been for a really long time. The rest of the sort of neighborhood around Cooper is pretty residential. You got Cooper Park houses to the north, houses on Masbeth, houses on Sharon, and there's a preschool here on Olive Street. So it's a very heavily used park, and there's always a lot of people out on the sidewalks and trying to access the park in a safe way. I'm specifically focusing on this intersection at the corner of Olive and Masbeth at the northwest corner of the park. This is a view of that intersection. So this is taken, like, if you're standing at the corner of the park, you're on Olive, you're looking north at the Greenpoint Hospital site across Masbeth. The only traffic signal is the stop sign for cars on Olive. On Masbeth, you've got signage suggesting that cars yield to pedestrians in the crosswalks, but they don't do it very often, and so it's really dangerous for people to cross the street here to the park. And there's a big problem with visibility too. There was scaffolding on this corner I moved to the neighborhood like 10 years ago, and I think the scaffolding was there when I moved in. It was just removed, so that helps a little bit, but you still have trucks like this FedEx truck that park right there on the corner. So if you're trying to cross here, you got to get like really far out into the intersection and peek around trucks to see if it's safe, and then, you know, make a run for it. So what we're proposing for this intersection is that we think it's a good candidate for a redesign, per Mayor Adams' pledge to redesign 1,000 dangerous intersections during his first term. Immediately across the street, you can see it's the Greenpoint Hospital site, which is mostly vacant, but which is going to be redeveloped. Here's an aerial view. Again, here's the intersection we're talking about, if you can see my cursor. And, you know, the whole site was just rezoned this past year. And so I believe construction is going to be starting sometime this year, bringing, you know, hundreds of new residential units to this corner of the park. I think it's 557 new units of housing, a 200-bed shelter in this building on the corner. So that's going to be, you know, hundreds of new families, thousands of people moving into this neighborhood. And this dangerous intersection is really kind of like at their front door and their main access point to the park. So I think it's something that, you know, it would have been good to address it 15 years ago, but I think it's even more important that we start thinking about how to address it now. And I say 15 years ago because this community has been advocating for improvements on the Maspeth corridor for a really long time. When I started digging into this, you know, here's a presentation from 2008 from the Maspeth Homeowners Association, you know, pointing out some of the problems on Maspeth. Here's another one from 2010. These are screenshots of their presentation, making suggestions for, you know, improving the public realm in the area. These are screenshots from that 2010 plan. They suggested a lot of things like curb bump outs, you know, ways of sort of making crossings safer, making it so pedestrians are more visible. So in 2015, there was a plan from DOT to make some targeted improvements to the streets in this area. You know, I think I think this is when the speed humps came about, and also some improved markings and those kinds of things. But the problems persist and the streets continue to be really, really unsafe. In 2019, GREC, which is the, you know, the consortium of community organizations that's been advocating around the Greenpoint Hospital site, came together around a number of ideas, again, trying to make improvements to the streets in the neighborhood. We organized a walkthrough with DOT. I think many of you were there and participated in it. Pointed out a lot of problem areas, and you know, I think it was pretty clear. I mean, you know, we witnessed the kinds of dangerous situations while we were standing out there, even on this corner of Kingsland and Maspeth. So one of the outcomes of that work was some new signage at Kingsland and Maspeth, which has been an improvement. Before, there was just a stop sign for the southbound Kingsland traffic, but now it's a three-way stop with a blinking red light, and so it is a little bit safer there. You know, across the park, we've done a lot of work. This is Sharon Street, which is part of the Open Street program, and this is an image from our block party that we organized with DOT. But this north side of the park remains really unsafe. So what we're suggesting, what we would like to propose to the community board and to DOT, is that, you know, rather than add more signage like stop signs or a traffic light to this intersection, because it's so close to Kingsland and Maspeth, you know, our suspicion is that it wouldn't be that effective and people wouldn't really pay that much attention to stop signs. But instead, what we're proposing is that the entire intersection be raised, reconstructed and raised to the level of the sidewalk. So if you're in a car, you know, you enter the intersection by going up a little ramp, which brings you up to the level of the sidewalk. and then there's a down ramp on the other side. And the same thing for Olive. You drive up a little ramp and then turn whichever way you're going on Maspeth. But what we think that this would do is it would create essentially like a really large speed bump and would be a strong signal to drivers that they're entering a pedestrian zone. They're in a different kind of space and they need to, yield to pedestrians in the crosswalk. So instead of pedestrians stepping down into the roadbed, cars would have to drive up a few inches to the sidewalk level. And we think that would sort of, change the way people perceive and respond to the space, and would, drive more safely and act more responsibly. And also, as I mentioned before, this is going to become kind of the gateway to the park for Cooper Park Commons. And so you can imagine, this kind of a different surface treatment, potentially kind of extending to the entrance of the entrance to the buildings, and creating kind of like a whole nice new entry experience for all the new residents there. That's the proposal. I know that these kinds of things take a while to go through, various approvals and planning. So what I'm also proposing is that in the interim, we request some kind of immediate improvements to this intersection, which can be done overnight with the existing DOT toolkit, painting, extending the curbs with bump outs painted into the sidewalk, adding physical things like granite stones and planters to prevent cars from parking there, and to keep the intersections daylit and visible, and shortening the crossing distance for people trying to get across Maspeth to the park. So that would be sort of like the interim step, with a longer term plan for a raised intersection. I don't know if there are other examples of raised intersections in New York. Maybe somebody does, but I couldn't find any, but they've certainly been done in other cities. So this is what I'm proposing in the top right. You can see cars would drive up a small ramp. They would enter this sort of pedestrian zone, and then they would, go through on the other side. And then on the left side here are pictures just showing, what the DOT can do with their existing toolkit in the interim to make it safe, tomorrow, with paint and other materials, those kinds of things. What I'm asking for from the community board is, we can discuss this, but then, to get support for this idea, we have a letter ready to go to the DOT, signed by a lot of, neighborhood organizations and electeds, and it would be great to get this in motion. So that's the idea. If there are questions or discussion, I'd be happy to field any questions I can.
Yeah, Paul, thank you for this. This is really great. I had, I'm glad you mentioned that you didn't see a precedent in New York City for this type of construction. And I just wonder, Rhonda, if you have any knowledge offhand. I believe Rhonda's still on the call.
Yes,
Any
I am.
knowledge, thank you, of any place in any of the community, at least in any of the community boards that you represent, or not, you know what I mean?
I'm not aware of a raised intersection anywhere in the city of New York. I mean, but certainly not in any of the community boards I represent, and I don't think in Brooklyn either. We are starting to experiment with raised crosswalks at, we're starting to pilot raised crosswalks at a limited number of intersections. That's the only thing that's close to this that I'm aware of.
Is that's citywide? Those the pilots, or just in Brooklyn?
Maybe Claudette knows. I wouldn't, I really I don't really know what's going on in the other boroughs,
Okay.
but I know that, yeah, okay. She just confirmed citywide.
Citywide. Okay, great. Thank you, Ms. Workman. Okay. So I just want to mention one other thing. So Paul, at that intersection, besides the delivery trucks that are consistently illegally parked at that corner, there is also the problem of the sidewalk plantings, because they're young and bushy. They really have they obscure if you're on Olive, they totally obscure the oncoming eastbound traffic. And folks that know this intersection that drive it probably have had a similar experience where you have to edge out regardless whether there's a truck there or not, because that tree is when it's in leaf is a real problem. So I just wanted to mention that as well. But all right, committee, any other? I think, Paul, we can take this down and bring it up if anybody wants to refer to anything, but
Okay.
just want to see if any hands are raised. Committee first. I see Ryan. And I see William. Okay, well, Ryan. Ryan, go ahead, you're muted.
Okay, sorry about that. I don't have any real questions because I felt the presentation was very thorough and well thought out. I've driven there and made deliveries for my CSA, and a lot of the traffic issues that you mentioned are again all the problems. I have some thoughts on next steps. So I guess once everyone's done, I just want to raise my hand again at the end because I think it would be very powerful. He's really has some innovative thoughts to put this before the DOT commissioner, but I think it would be more powerful. It came from a whole coalition of all the people that presented about the area, Friends of Cooper Park. So I just want to talk about it at the end about next steps, but I just think, I just want to say it's so well thought out and really ingenious. And I really appreciate the time you took to put this together and present it and think about it because it was really good and well needed.
I agree. Sorry, I had William. Where'd he go?
Yes.
There he is.
Full disclosure, I'm also a friend of Cooper's Park.
Yes.
And
yes,
Paul and Sarah are brilliant. And we're out there, as a team, we're out there every Saturday morning. And I get there even earlier. And I can tell you, even at 7 o'clock in the morning, it's very dangerous. Then I go there around 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock. It is always very dangerous. So that is no joke. And it's always been a lot of close calls. The closest thing I could say that is when I was with Kevin LeCur under BQE, Meeker Avenue, and some of those streets there. Just close calls after close calls. I equate that to that. Not in volume, but people driving and taking it for granted they can do whatever they want. And as when it gets warmer, it's going to be more traffic. And this is something for us to be proactive for a change. We're always reacting. This is an opportunity for us to be proactive. And that means people's lives being saved. Thank you.
Thank you, William. Committee, anybody else? Bronwyn, go ahead.
Hi, thanks, Paul. This is fantastic and definitely familiar with this intersection as both of my young boys went to Carrick Montessori. So we, that stop sign wasn't there, then the one at Kingsland and what is it, Montrose? And this other one that you're proposing is fantastic. I hear, sorry if there's something happening with said child, but I wanted to ask you, Paul, what your thoughts are about this raised intersection. What do you call raised? It's not a raised intersection, or yeah, raised intersection.
Yes.
Would you're drawing show what stripe and would be string and then my
Sorry, Brahman, we caught like 3 words of that.
oh no.
And now she's frozen. Brahman, we'll come back to you, okay? Sorry about that, folks. Oh. Bronwyn, if you can hear me, why don't you try logging out, logging back in? It might be, I'm not hearing similar problems from other speakers. I just wonder, that could be, okay, she did it, okay. Kevin and then Paul.
I think
Go ahead,
Paul had
Paul.
his hand up.
Oh, sorry, Kevin, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, I think Paul had his hand up first. Paul, go ahead.
Okay, Paul, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, no, I just wanted to respond briefly to Ryan's comment about putting together a coalition. And that was my last slide. I kind of went through it quickly, but we've collected signatures from, this really is coalition driven. You know, St. Nick's supports it. You know, a dozen and a half other organizations have signed on, and I can share the list with you, Ryan, in case there's anyone who we might have missed accidentally. That was it.
I'm betting you got them all.
Paul. Okay, Kevin. Go ahead.
Thanks. And thank you, Paul, for putting this together. I know there's a number of organizations that I know on that list, and it's really thorough. And all the electeds for the area as well are on that list. So really phenomenal. Yeah, I think that I guess kind of just a question. I know we still have Rhonda still on the call, and Ms. Workman is still on the call from DOT. I mean, I think that obviously the raised crosswalks, but particularly the bulb outs and boulders could be done so quickly. It could be done overnight. And so I guess I am wondering, obviously this has been a conversation, as Paul said, going all the way back to 2008, which is just wild. And this is a really dangerous intersection of folks coming off the park that is only going to be more dangerous with thousands of neighbors moving in across the street. And obviously maybe some pruning of a tree is in order, Eric, but I also think that, the design elements of what is in the roadbed is really, really important. And I'm just wondering if we get some type of commitment now from DOT to do those light touch treatments that will slow traffic and will keep people safe, even before raised crosswalks, even before a whole redesign, but the truffle paint and the boulders to slow that traffic down. Because, that could be brought over and that could be done very quickly. So I don't, if it's something that Ms. Workman or Rhonda, you could speak to, I know the community would be.
Thanks, Kevin.
I certainly can't make a commitment
right
like that.
Yeah.
But
and these things can't be done overnight. They have to be designed by engineers and approved by traffic.
Right. So I think what we'll do is I'll entertain a motion to what would we call it, Rhonda? It's not light touch, it's not toolkit, although the name of the manual is toolkit, but oh my god, my brain.
You're looking to
what is
find the word for
this type of
in-house
improvement called?
Isn't it like surface improvements or something?
What's the agency term?
I think you'd be talking about improvements that can be made with in-house resources.
Yeah.
But I'm not
Yes.
sure if that's what.
Okay.
It's called SIPs. I don't know what it stands for. SIPs.
Street improvement projects.
Yeah.
Okay, so FIPS. Okay, so I'll do that at the end of the discussion. And then for I'm going to recognize Bronwyn in a minute because I see. Oh, did we lose her again? Oh, there she is. Okay, got you. Bronwyn, I'll get you in 1 second. So actually, go ahead, Bronwyn. Go ahead now. If you can
Okay,
hear me.
I don't, am I on? Can you hear
You're
me?
on. Yep.
Sweet. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
I was asking about striping for pedestrian crossing on that raised intersection. That it seems like that should maybe want to be included on the diagram of the intersection. And also, I wanted to ask Paul your thoughts on. I'm out again. This is insane.
You can
Forget it.
just text me, Bronwyn.
All right, we lost her again. She's back. Bronwyn, go ahead without your camera. That might help. Or not. There she is. Bronwyn, can you hear us?
I can hear. I don't know. Kind of. Can you hear me?
Yeah, keep your camera off and
I'm
just.
trying. I'm trying. I'm joined
Okay.
from 4 different devices. Can you hear me?
Oh my. Yes.
It's as if now I have to say something monumental, and it's like totally not. So I'm really
I
sorry.
know we're bated breath over here. Okay, go ahead.
No, I was asking about painting, striping on the raised intersection, and also about, I wanted to know Paul's thoughts about incorporating a stop sign, because I think that people are not familiar with this kind of a traffic interface, and and pedestrians also aren't familiar with the traffic interface. So that's all. It really wasn't that big of a deal. Sorry.
But
Did
important.
you even hear me? Yeah.
Yes, we got you this time. I'll just preempt that with a stop sign requires a signal study, so that's a whole other ball of wax. But we can include that when we entertain the motion. Paul, do you want to address striping?
Yeah, I mean, I would just, well, I was just going to say about the stop sign that, yeah, I mean, that seems like it's been part of the discussions for years also. And we haven't really made much headway with that, but I think that's because it's so close to Kingsland. It kind of like, I get the sense that it doesn't make sense to have them like, so that's kind of why I thought doing something more like a physical design might be a solution.
Yeah, it was denied in the past.
Yeah.
That stop sign there.
Okay.
It didn't meet the warrants, which is crazy, but whatever.
Yeah, and then I don't know about the striping. I guess if this works its way through DOT, there'll be a design, and I assume that it would include some striping most likely. But I don't really know the answer to that.
Okay. Sarah, go ahead. Sarah, what can I get your last name?
Sheffield.
Sheffield?
Yeah, Sheffield.
Okay.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
Thanks so much. And Paul, thank you for putting that together. I live on Maspeth, I have for about 8 years, and just would love to see anything that slows the cars down. And especially on that corner, it is just about impossible. It's better now that, as you said, now that the construction has moved on, but it's just a very tough corner, and I really appreciate this design. And I like that it's a novel approach, and I do hope that we can, while it works its way through, wherever it works its way through, if we could have some of the immediate things. Just as someone who lives on Maspeth, I just am really excited to have this under discussion. So thank you. That's it.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I think so. This doesn't, this isn't a plaza thing where you can just apply for it. So I think what we should do is make a motion, but it's got to be correctly
Hey, Eric, I wanted
stated.
to,
Yeah,
I wanted to ask a question. So,
go ahead.
Things like this. So at the last big public meeting, we had a discussion about district needs and always our committee work and how our committee work feeds into the district needs statement. And so this is something I would love to see in our district needs statement. All the pictures, all the talk, like when we're talking about, but every time we put this forward, the first thing Rhonda says, or any of the agency, not Rhonda, any of the agency people say is budget, 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 budget and process. And the district needs statement is actually a huge part of the budget process. And so I would love to see this in. I would even love to us to put together a letter that we send to like Councilman Gutierrez and Councilman Ressler and say, hey, this didn't get into our district needs statement, but you're in the budget process right now. And this is a project that, you know, is really good and needs funding. But this is like, I don't think we get through a vote of a motion of something that gets through the full board without doing this presentation at the full board, because there's going to be a lot of questions and questions and questions. So I think we either decide to put this before the full board, or again, I'm saying like the district needs and the budget discussion for me is almost the more important thing than getting CB approval, but us not entering it into the budget process. I would love to see this funded, and I want to know how the CB us can help get it funded.
Ryan, that's a good point. But I think, okay, so I think we should request a study incorporating Paul's design, and then but here's why, just process wise, DOT should come to us, the full board, with the redesign proposed, and then obviously we'd go back to committee, and then we would, you know, vote it back to the full board. Because if I mean,
checkmate, sir, checkmate. I hear your process. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So just, you know, just working the bureaucracy. That's you know how it should go. And Jerry, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Or Jerry, if you have any suggestions.
Well, I mean, I tell you the truth, if the striped raised intersection has not been done in the city, I would say to move forward with the neck downs, but I would go further with the neck downs down the block, because every time I go through that intersection, it seems like there's either a UPS truck, a FedEx truck, or an Amazon truck parked right on that corner.
Yeah.
So if you're coming from Metropolitan, you take your heart in your hands. I don't know how anybody could speed to an intersection. You take your heart in your hands making that left turn, you know?
Yeah. No, it's treacherous.
And as a kid, I mean, that was my part, because I live on Constellier, and I would always go to Cooper Park, and it was always a problem. And the trucks barreling through there, and if DOT goes ahead with one of their proposed options to build that bridge on Maspeth Avenue, God help us.
But Jerry, we have a letter saying we oppose it.
We oppose it, but they did not take it off their list.
I know, I'm being facetious, but
and Mike, just so you know, we did get the stop sign on the all-way stop on Constellier and Manhattan Avenue. That was something that I know you were looking for, and we worked on that.
Definitely, yeah, that's been great.
Yeah, but I'm afraid the raised, although it looks nice, the raised intersection, if they still speed, it's going to be a launching pad. Because I see that. I see people, a lot of people, I don't know how they do it unless they're leased cars and they don't care. They hit those speed bumps. And I have one on Constellier because I'm on a school block.
Right.
And every night you hear the bam, 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 bam. I mean, it's crazy.
The thing with this though, and Paul, feel free, is that with that larger span, I don't know, it might alleviate some of the, it won't alleviate the speeding because people are crazy on that street anyway, but it will reduce the I think, you know, the noise effect, and it'll slow down some people that are on the regular basis. So thank you for that, Jerry. And just
And Eric, when they did the open streets on Graham Avenue, I
yes.
had the bus coming down Consigliere Street, and they had such a problem making that left turn off of Graham onto Consigliere that when they finally made the turn after inching back and forth several times, they were blasting down the block and hitting the speed bumps, you know? I've spoken to Andy about that.
Yeah.
But to do, I like you know, Mike's design with the neck downs and even to make them wider neck downs so that everybody benefits from that. The people crossing the street and you know, that should work. And they're not that expensive if Assemblyman Gallagher has the multimodal funds and could pay for it, then it'll be done even quicker.
Yeah, I mean, I like the neck downs and the putting those blocks there to like pull back the daylighting area. What I'm afraid though, and Rhonda and Ms. Workman, you know, I'm afraid that so if we ask for both a study to do this raised crosswalk, and then we ask for an interim toolkit treatment, truffle paint, rocks, neck downs. I'm afraid that we'll get the, not afraid that we'll get the neck downs because that would be a good thing, but we'll get that and then that'll be it, because they won't, you know, come back for a more robust treatment if there's something in place. Not right away anyway. I mean, like we could come back in 5 years or something like that. But and Rhonda and Ms. Workman, if you want to
interim.
Anyway, Rhonda or Ms. Workman, any comment on my statement?
You know, Eric, I mean, certainly you could put in a request that phrases it like that. I mean, I really don't even know what would be involved in considering a treatment that we've never used in the city before. And I mean, I don't know the engineering of it or anything. And I mean, I would never say that it couldn't be done or it wouldn't be considered. Again, those kind of decisions are made way above my pay grade. But to specifically ask for neck downs along a corridor is something that definitely could be considered. And if you want to phrase it that it's an interim, you're asking for an interim treatment while this greater treatment be considered, you know, then that's how you should phrase it, I guess.
I think that I would like to do it that way too.
Okay, Ms. Workman, any comment?
No, Eric, actually, Rhonda responded best.
Okay.
If Paul could share the presentation that he provided earlier, would you be able to share that with us so that we could share with the rest of our team?
Yeah, of course, Eric. I'll send it to you in the office. And
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Great. Okay, so to close this item, I believe we need a motion that should be carefully phrased. So let's see. I will make a motion to support a study. And just before I do this, Rhonda or Ms. Workman, this would not be affected by the 36-month window, right? Since we've, put in for other. I don't know that this actually falls into that 36-month window, but there's been
Eric, you're
so
saying
much
what?
activity.
Because what was denied?
Well, see, there've been so many studies that we've asked for, and now that in 36 months is like a long time to remember. When it was 18 months, it was a little bit more manageable, but now it's 36, and
36 isn't for everything across the board. I believe that we won't restudy a speed hump or a traffic signal until 36 months have passed. But
okay.
I'm not sure specifically what you're referring to.
Well, I think when we did that walkthrough, we did ask for a stop sign that was denied. Paul, does that sound familiar?
I believe we did.
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I just wanted to make sure I wasn't asking for a study that's going to come back tonight right away. So, okay, to support a study of the just bear with me, folks, for a second. Support a study Maspeth Olive intersection to implement resources for neck downs and other treatments to improve pedestrian crossing and motorist bicycle visibility as well as consideration of a community plan to raise the roadbed at this intersection to the level of the crosswalks. Okay, I think I have it. And just nobody immediately second this. Let's kind of fix it before we second it, please. Okay, so my motion is to support a study, to write a letter to DOT to support a study of the Maspeth Olive intersection to implement resources for neck downs and other treatments to improve pedestrian crossing and motorist bicycle visibility, as well as consideration of a community plan to raise the roadbed at this intersection to the level of the crosswalk. Comments? Paul?
I think that sounds right to me.
Okay. Jerry, how does that?
I think you nailed it.
Ryan likes it. Jerry?
No, I think it's good. But I just have concerns because the agency has not had
Done
this
this
treatment
before.
done any place. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Can I
Go ahead, Ryan. Go.
sidebar to that? I think that they've been in the press enough saying that they want to do innovative things that us putting an innovative idea before them is actually like good, because like they're looking for new ideas, and we're saying your new idea would work here. Come look at this spot, and I think it would work here. So I think they should look at this spot. Like really.
I see your point.
That's what I'm saying. Us just putting the community plan in front of them is not a bad idea.
Right.
you know, at all, because I think if they
Okay.
actually read it in
Okay.
So write the letter with that segue,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Sure. Okay. And Paul, maybe we can just use the Cooper Park letter and just maybe tweak it once the board votes on it. But to what Ryan's saying,
And
you know,
and
to
and you say this has been done in other areas? Can that be
other cities.
referenced?
not
Other,
not in the city, but globally, yes. And they
okay.
like
So maybe we could reference it other places where it's been done?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, and I'm happy to find some other specific examples. I mean, it's, I didn't create
It's
the
in the
article,
presentation, and we
yeah.
could send the presentation with the letter. I think we'd have to, because how are they how are they going to know what community plan we're talking about if we don't submit it? But Paul, maybe if you could just build that section out, like here's where it has been installed, you know, maybe a press clipping, like this is a great thing in Montreal or wherever, or Amsterdam, I don't know. Okay. Okay. We good? Is there a second?
I second. William Vega seconds.
Vega, the king of seconds.
I love being second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I
Abstentions? Carries. All right, good work, Paul, as usual. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
And thank you, committee, and Rhonda and Ms. Workman for hanging in there. And Jerry, thanks for your input. All right, that concludes the 40-minute, 20-minute item number 2. How are we doing on time? We have 15 minutes. We did the base renewals. Okay, old business.
have old business.
Ryan, everybody with old business committee. Ryan. All right, Ryan, go ahead.
Okay, so
Sorry.
In light of discussions at both our past transportation committee meeting about the Wythe exit, the discussions at the last board, I want us to put that back. Like, I want DOT to bring that back or to look at it again. I was driving on the BQE, and it's a dangerous slow down always. And that was originally what was brought before the community board, and it is horrific. Causes massive idling, which we talk about the air quality, and Joel Gross brought it up about wanting more green space around the BQE. So I think that takes off the major objection of removing the green space to create an extra lane. And I think that we never got to vote on that. It was taken off the table, and I feel like at the very least, I would like us as a committee to have a walkthrough in March and have it be on in April so we can talk about it, because I think that it is an area that causes massive air pollution, and it got taken off because a bus company didn't want to stop doing illegal turns. Like it was stopped because people didn't want illegal stuff taken away. And I just think, I don't know, I want it back on the agenda vehemently.
Okay. I cannot promise to coordinate a walkthrough this month, but I think we can do it in April.
Yeah.
And have it. I don't have a date for the April meeting yet, but it's probably, since this is
I would say April. There's lots of stakeholders, so I would say April is good, because I don't want this to be something that's seen as like the Hasidic bus owners being ignored. I want them to be 100% part of the discussion, but I think that there is a general community that was totally like and environmental concerns that were pushed out of the way for a segment that again I don't know. Anyway,
okay.
I think that they
all right.
should be there.
Yes, I completely agree. Okay, so let's
Oh,
leave
crap, dude. There's no way Passover is in April. There's no way we can have a walkthrough in April. It's gonna have to be a May walkthrough.
When in
Unless
April?
it's like the middle of the month. I mean, again, I guess if it got moved on.
All right. Well,
Passover starts on April 15th.
Okay.
April 15th. Okay, so we'll shoot for the end of April. Yeah, we'll shoot for the end of April in the words of Yul Brynner. So let it be written, so let it be done. For those of you movie buffs. Okay. All right. So thanks, Ryan. We'll look at that for the end of April. Committee, any other old business? Committee, any new business? I see no hands going once.
Me.
Bronwyn? Oh wait, okay. Let me get Bronwyn. Bronwyn?
No, I didn't mean to do that. I have nothing.
Okay. Ryan, you got a new business?
I was just gonna say, can we follow up on our first item and make sure that there's like stakeholder discussion happening while the bike team is putting together their plan, so that they don't, like, I'm sure if Karen was on here, I just, want to, like, if we can send a follow-up email. I know that they're gonna, she said the bike team is working on something. I just don't want them to come and I just want to make sure that they know to follow up with all the stakeholders, like that we send a follow-up email to, because I just think it's key to be said.
Sure. Rhonda, can you reach out to Preston and Craig and just ask them to shoot something over to Evergreen and Newtown Creek Alliance, and Karen can distribute that to the businesses if you can't. I think I don't want to.
Something over in regard to what? I'm sorry, I'm just not following.
I'm sorry. So Ryan's asking if before Bikes comes to the board with a treatment plan, that they have a conversation with at least Evergreen and Newtown Creek Alliance before they present, just so that we're not Bikes we'll do their plan, and then it comes to the board, and then we have to tweak, and like it might be better.
I'm gonna add the parks too, like Katie from Parks.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you, Ryan. Sorry, Katie. For for that, just an outreach. Hey, let's schedule a call to just talk about stuff that you may need incorporated into this bike plan we're working on. Just something to kind of preempt committee or full board crankiness after the fact. If some of the ducks can be put in a row before the plan comes, so that it's more readily approvable, let's say with minimal extra tweaking, you know what I mean? Just like kind of just
I hear what you're saying, but wouldn't you want that done at the committee level? Have the committee look and weigh in and make their comments?
Yes, which is going to happen anyway. But what I'm saying is that, I mean, that's a given. Like somebody's going to have something to say about the plan. But what I'm saying is, if by Ryan's suggestion, if Bikes reaches out to the stakeholders first, it would streamline the process so that when it does come to the board or to the committee, it can just be a more what's the word? Streamline for. Yeah, it would just limit the amount of extra discussion that would need to happen on the back end, rather than having it come a little bit more like, hey, we heard from Newtown Creek that they want X, and Evergreen says the businesses need Y, just so, and therefore we put this in the plan because we went out and we talked to the stakeholders, and then it goes to, and then the full board is like, okay, great, send it to committee, we come and we talk about it, and then we send it back to them saying this, you know what I mean? I'm just thinking Ryan's suggestion is good because it could streamline the the process, the bureaucracy, and we're just trying to get past that. So that's it.
If you want to send me an email with the the stakeholders that you want included with a request for us to review this with them ahead of the transportation committee, I mean, I'll see what I can do.
Okay, yeah. Willis is still on the call, but I'll coordinate a call with Willis and Karen and Katie, and then we'll shoot you an email just for a follow up.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say, Rhonda, you've been on the thread that has pretty much all the stakeholders on it with all the local businesses. So that would be my recommendation for a place to start.
Okay, but just so it's clear for DOT, Willis, you, me, Karen, and Katie will just have a brief call. Let's try for early next week, and then we can draft an email to send to Rhonda to do that outreach with Craig and Preston.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Ryan. That's a good suggestion. Okay. Any other new business? All right. Hearing none, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Wait.
Can
we start the official district needs list? Can we because I feel like, again, we watch out, can we have a folder that we say that the November meeting gets put to the budget? Can we just have a process for these presentations that come before us to have a budget life, a district needs life?
Let's make that an agenda point for the next meeting.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Going once.
Eric, I think it bears mentioning that the traffic light that was approved in August of 2021 for Graham and Richardson has yet to be installed, nor have we been provided with an installation date.
Graham and Richardson light approved 21. What was that? August of 21, right?
August, yes.
We'll work on getting a response for you, Jerry.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Workman.
And Chair, just to reiterate that I'd love under the K Bridge street safety to be on the next agenda for your April meeting.
Okay, K Bridge safety in April.
Eric, I just have one piece of new business. Quick.
Go ahead.
Just excited to announce, this wasn't covered, and I know that Andrew is off the call, but I know I just saw Senator Gallagher announce that for McGinnis Boulevard, there are going to be left turn calming treatments approved for Green Street, Huron, India, Java, Kent, Greenpoint, Collier, Meserole, Norman, and Nassau, and right turn treatments approved for Humboldt and Bayard. Those had been discussed as coming in later last summer, and there were delays on DOT's end, that was said it was going to be coming in this spring. So we are very excited to hear that. Some of these intersections obviously are intersections where folks have been killed and injured, and like every intersection at McGinnis. But it's not part of the 39 million, but it is a great start. Basically, it's to slow down cars as they are turning off of the boulevard. So anyway, some good news.
Okay, so I'm sorry, left and right turn treatments. What's the corridor from where? Don't give me all the streets, just southbound, south border, north border.
Between Green and Nassau. That's the left turn calming treatments, and the right turn calming treatment is Humboldt and Bayard.
Humboldt. And that's going in when?
All that I know is that according to Emily's tweet, it says to be installed this spring. So hopefully
that right. This all right. So approved for install.
What's the first day of spring?
I don't know.
Daylight savings time is on Sunday, so.
Is it really already? That's cool. Anyway, approved for spring install. Great, thanks, Kevin. All right. Any other new business? All right. All right. Thanks, everybody. I think this was a pretty constructive and civil meeting, which is nice. Thanks for everybody's hard work. And we will see everybody next month. Date to be determined. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, wait, Eric. Are we? Do you know? Are committee meetings gonna go back in real life, or are we gonna be like?
It's up to the governor.
I know, but
right?
If they say we're like, here's my question for you as my committee chair. If the governor says we can have in-person meetings, are you going to host meetings in that teeny little office, or are we going to have like outdoor meetings in a park somewhere? Like, what are like your thoughts if we get to move forward? Because that back office seems like a super spreader event. TBH.
Have them on Banker's Anchor.
I'm just putting. I was just thinking about that because I was like, I kind of think that unless another surge happens, that they're gonna give us the permission to have meetings, but we won't necessarily. I don't know. Like, I just am curious about having 25 people in that little room for real.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that either necessarily.
Okay.
But
I think if it's summertime, we should think about outdoor meetings if we can, if it's legal.
Well, the only problem with an outdoor meeting is if we have a posted meeting date and then there's like a rain event or something, we can't move it, which is problematic. But we can. And the other problem is everything else we have to either rent or like we can't expect St. Nick's or sorry, not St. Nick's. What's the place where we always used to go? 211.
Swiggy 60s.
Thank you. Oh my God, it's been like a million years. It feels like.
Bushwick in the park facilities community room.
Oh, all right. But don't we have to pay for that?
They did a park committee meeting there.
No, we don't pay for this.
All right. Well, we can.
And I already have a call in to Jose Leon to use St. Nick's' space at the senior center. And if we're going back to in person, Giovanni has volunteered his school, which I'm told with social distancing is like 183.
All right.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
So we're just waiting. We're prepared either way, whichever announcement the governor makes.
I'm
right.
glad that people
has there
are
any
thinking
been
about
discussion with Tommy about Progress?
I'm sorry?
Any discussions with Tommy about Progress High School?
It was unavailable. I tried that first. Yeah, it's unavailable.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool.
I don't know if they have that scaffolding going all the way around and everything that they were working on
right
that.
now.
So yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot going on over there right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Whatever. All right. Well, let's see. But the way things are going now, I'm sure Adam seems to wants to open everything, and I think Hochul kind of feels the same just from press reports. So we shall see.
And there's a lot of frustration about online public meetings. So I feel like people are burnt out of it. So I mean, that's why I'm saying I'm not surprised that we'll come back, but I personally am a little nervous about having a big meeting like the SLA committee. You guys cannot meet in that room. That's not.
No, and I don't think Warsaw is ready to give us the room again like they used to.
Anyways,
but
thank you.
But those Warsaw meetings were fun. Yes. Anyway, that was before I was on the board. It was strictly wonky entertainment. All right, so okay, great. So everybody, thank you. We'll call it a night at 9:01, and date to be determined for the April meeting. Okay, thanks everybody. Thank you, Jerry.
Good night.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, everybody.